Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity, a show about weirdos. With your hosts, John Fahey, Aaron Peter, and Matt Brousseau.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity. It's a show about weirdos, doggone it. My name is John Fahey. It is Johnboy time. I am the COVID kid. I am COVID barely 18. Joining me as ever, thinker, stinker, PP drinker, vaccine dealer, scene stealer, foreskin peeler. Gross.
Oh, you didn't tell me that.
3 children stacked in a trench coat, pretending to be an adult man. Each child ripped, huge hog, veiny, and they're pretending to be an adult. High-functioning pervert, master of hyperversion? Aaron Joseph?
And I am the Marquise Desaad.
And you are accused to drink Ghost pee-pee.
And you are my sinners. And you're ready. And
Oh, yeah.
it's just
like Paul.
Oh.
And this shit's between y'all. To your right, my left, handsome Matt Brousseau, the Frenchman henchman.
Le Frenchman Hench
Yeah, were you trying to not pronounce the...
French
Yeah, okay.
Le Garçon Franche
Garçon means boy.
Garçon
Garçon, coffee.
Garçon means
Hi.
That's
Hi.
Pulp Fiction.
Yes.
Garçon means boy. Who's doing that in L.A.?
Garçon, go sir, go sir, go sir, go sir.
Garçon, please. Boy. How y'all doing? How y'all feeling? It's a Martin Lawrence reference.
Yeah, well, I have baseball fever, personally.
You got catch.
Oh, we're just going through the hits today.
We are. I gotta say a couple of things up top. We'll get more into once we get into the profile. Dylan Safranek, listener to the show, sent an amazing letter to the Profiles email, which is profilesineccentricitypodcast@gmail.com. If you want to get a hold of us, tell us your secrets, be a weirdo, get deep, get freaky.
Send weird pictures.
Dylan sent us this very, I absolutely loved it, hyper vulnerable, personal email after we did the Miroslav Tichy episode, and it corresponded to his own work in photography. And I think maybe it was afterwards we did the libertarian episode, and then we got, funny enough, I think maybe same day from somebody else that was Dilly B in photography. Another Dylan listening to the show into photography.
Yeah.
That just messaged us saying, "I love the show, but I wish you guys wouldn't use the R word." And that what he means by the R word, Aaron, is retard.
That's fair.
Well, no. Well, yeah.
It's fair.
I hear the wish.
Listen, I hear the wish. I'm very sorry for offending you. It does mean slow. It does mean slowed. I am not going to stop saying it. But however, very sorry to offend you. And that is authentic and real.
Yes.
Things offend me that don't offend everybody else.
Like my smell.
Yeah, definitely. Certainly the smell of your spunk. That is real offensive.
Yeah.
And it stinks. And I'm not a fan. I particularly don't like the word bitch. Talk about that often. But it is my hang up. And I know that it's not as offensive to other people. Everybody has kind of their own grade and slope of what is offensive to them.
Hey, I'm
but
offended by that.
I am saying authentically, if you are offended by anything we say on the show, we are sorry. But most of the time we are really just being stupid, and we don't mean any harm. And I think that is fairly obvious.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I don't mind if someone says what they're bothered by.
No. Nobody's
fine.
offended.
You
by
got to
it.
talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, you do have to talk about.
Yeah, and I appreciate
but that's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah.
I am not the least. It's a friend of the show, Jeff Sewing, said to me one time. He goes, "I understand people being offended, And he goes, I cannot understand people being offended by people being offended.
Right.
And I think that's like a new lexicon in kind of like a discourse now where people are like, can you believe that they're mad? And it's like, well, just approach that. Don't get mad at them being mad.
Sure, absolutely.
I understand that you think the R word is offensive. I don't think it should come anywhere near the close of even having the censorship of the N word, because it is an actual word that means slowed. And I say it mainly as a person that refers to themselves as retarded all the time.
Yeah.
And I think I prove it every single week, and sometimes several times a week.
I mean, you're earning your R stripes.
I know. I think so.
But I mean, we all have like, I don't think I say that, but you know, it's we all have our own thing, and
We do have our own thing, and I do really mean it. I'm not joking. I'm not being satirical. I do really think everybody has their own things that they're offended by, and I hope we all keep that in mind. However, just keep in mind it is not the be all end all to everyone else. Is that a fair?
Right, because I'm the be all end all.
Ken doll. Yeah,
And that's
and that is actually all that matters.
that's the facts, Jack.
so.
That's the facts,
Just,
Jack.
as long as you have that kind of lodestar.
But
Lodestar.
also, yeah, hearing from a bunch of people that was just so great. We got so many great letters and people talking to us about the episodes, and we do really love all you guys, and we want to keep all of you in. When you do tell us something that really bothers you or offends you, I am totally here to talk to you seriously about it, and I hope you respect our opinion.
Yeah, because we respect yours.
We do.
Yeah.
And so here's something I want to talk to you guys about, and I'm kind of doing a little bit of a thing where I'm reversing the profile.
Wait,
Whoa.
could I if we're talking about fans, could I give
Gush?
a
gush?
shout out to Dallas, who is in Texas right now,
6 inches of snow.
and he has 45 minutes electricity every hour. And
Damn.
Hey, that's 3/4 of. I mean, that's pretty good.
yeah, exactly. It's almost a whole day. But anyway, we all hope you're doing well, and
Love Dallas.
it's man, what a fuck up.
Absolutely.
The whole place is.
The
100 million people are under winter weather advisory in this country right now. 100 million.
Wow.
And it's going to be 80 here in LA this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna be under a heat advisory or something. Anyway, I just
we're
wanted
gonna
to
have
say,
our shirts off and stuff.
if you're lucky. Just want to say,
I'm talking French guys, Spaniards, Irishmen.
they have them all.
Not a shirt betwixt the between the no shirts.
Nice.
I think I've had a lot of stuff here with the rampant attempted fascism, and it's a weird thing, right? Where we had this thing in the Capitol, and now we see something that's happening where the Republican Party is going like, oh, we should condemn it by this percentage, and the rest are going like, no, we should really back it up.
Right.
And so it's like kind of one of these things where we've almost put fascism on the back burner, I think.
You mean up until now?
No, now is what we're doing. As Trump leaves, Biden comes in, like the Republican Party is basically saying like, hey, still the election was stolen.
Yeah.
Still there is all this bullshit. Still there's deep state nonsense
Right.
and stuff. And there's politicians that are just going like, talking about feelings
Right.
and not facts.
Right.
And they're willing to indulge that.
Right.
And so we have this weird thing of, delaying a kind of a nascent fascist thing in the country where it might come back stronger than ever later if we don't kind of get rid of it now. But, it's one of those things where it's, I think, difficult for people to be keeping their jobs and being brave at the same time, right?
Sure.
Politicians, you mean?
Especially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Politicians, regular people too. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. But one of the things I wanted to talk about was, it's from the Nazi regime when there were people that were in the, ranking like Nazi Party respectable members where they were, not down with what was going on, and they were not really under any kind of suspicion of being collaborators. So they would kind of get away with collaborating more in an Oscar Schindler type sense.
Right, because they were such good stand-up Nazis.
Or at least the image of one.
Well, like we saw in the Elizabeth Van Loo episode.
Right.
You know, she just played the part of a Southern lady.
Right.
Yes.
And they...
Above or below suspicion.
Yes.
Right. And so it's this one of these things where you're like right on the line there and you invite this thing where you go like, were you trying to be like the conscientious objector just enough to not get killed? Or were you being like truly brave in a way that was very dangerous? Or did you have kind of the luxury of flying under the radar so much that nobody would really ever suspect you?
Right.
You know?
If you're the third generation kid of Jeff Bezos, what are you doing with your millions of dollars today? This is not the same thing, but it's like, are you using your wealth to help people or put your dad in space? Like, you know, what are you doing with your money?
But when the whole
Helping people is putting to death.
but when the whole regime is coming down and going like, you're with us or you're against us, and definitely, you know, if there was any kind of a successful, you know, cardiac arrest, diabetic coma coup that happened with the Trump crew. We all know Trump from the get-go has always said it's loyalty, right? It has to be.
Yeah, you know, I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue, and
It's the, you know, kind of the George W. thing of you're with us or you're with the terrorists, except meant far more seriously. And
because it's now anyone who's against me is
right.
Right. The party that talks about how much they love the First Amendment and hate cancel culture is censuring any politician who voted to impeach Trump.
And so, you know, with the Nazi Party and the people that would be caught up in that on a regular level, because like we can't forget regular, good, not hateful anti-Semitic people got caught up in that.
Of course. Yeah.
And a lot of that was based on just your country used to be the actual garbage dump 10 years before. 10 years before that, as we talked about Werewolf of Hanover, multiple cannibal killers, Vampire of Dusseldorf, people disappearing, nobody being able
Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
What country you think he's
Frankfurt Stein.
Well, Dr. Frankenstein especially.
But seriously,
the Mummy of Munich.
but for real, those guys, cannibal killers in post-war Germany, post-World War I Germany,
Then it became a cannibal Holocaust.
they can get away with killing so many people because the population is so transient, looking for work, that it doesn't matter. And you come out of that, you come out of wheeling the wheelbarrow of
cash
of
to buy a loaf of bread,
Deutschmarks to buy a loaf of bread, and then you come back and you are suddenly like now like a major industrial power. You know, he's on the cover of Time and all that shit, and it's like you can get really swept up in nationalism and also
and not wanting to be the nail that sticks out.
Yes, and also I think we kind of talked about it before, but the thing of like they didn't really have a like when Goebbels was in the Nazi Party, he was on kind of the wing that was a little bit more accepting of socialism,
Sure,
and communism. And Hitler was like talking all this shit about. He's like, no, fuck that. And it was the first time Goebbels like saw this guy that he thought was charismatic, and he looked at him and he thought like, oh no, I don't think I'm gonna get with this guy. And meanwhile, he ended up dying in a bunker with him, you know. And the thing was is that they really believed in this new thing about National Socialism, and it was like the thing that Mussolini was talking about of we're gonna get all the classes together on one job. There's going to be a unity of government because all the classes have this different thing, and so there's going to be still classes, but a form of socialism that unites the country, unites the government, unites the people, and they were all caught up in that.
the people are the rising tide.
And they co-opted socialism to appeal to some of the more left-leaning.
It was sweeping Europe, yeah.
And even though it wasn't really fascism.
Right.
But they put it in the name to get some of the kind of, what would you call them? Centrist.
Well, yeah,
Communist and socialist.
It was a thing of, if everybody's on the march, how are we not one people?
Right.
And it was kind of a smart argument.
Uh-huh.
But of course, at the same time, the whole thing was played to be like, oh no, don't worry, rich people, you'll still have your place. And not only that, we'll get all of the working classes mobilized to really push your shit.
Yeah.
And it was kind of brilliant, right? So if you are in that apparatus and the whole thing is going forward and it looks to be successful and secure, and you are kind of like realizing like, oh, okay, there's like not really cool shit going on here. At that point, is it safe for you to help people out, or is it actually very daring and brave? Or are you a coward by not lashing out more?
Well,
and this is kind of the Sophie Scholl thing that we talked about, like one of our early episodes. And she lashes out pretty hardcore. But if you fly under the radar and you realize like, oh, I have some power and I can help people out, a la Oskar Schindler, is that the best? Is that the best? And is it the best thing?
Yeah, I mean, you're no use dead.
Right.
If you have those intentions, I mean, every situation is different, right?
Yes.
But in general, if you are caught up in a machine that you are benefiting from, and you find moral crime is being committed, and you want to do something about it. I mean, if they're gonna kill you for speaking out, then you're no use. Just you kind of have to chip away at the machine from the inside. It reminds me of Batman Begins.
I love it when all of it turns back to a comic book metaphor. I'm not joking. This has happened since the beginning of the show, and it's one of my favorite things. So please continue.
Alfred Pennyworth, played by Michael Caine. He must have burst. Your parents used these caverns and this elevator to smuggle slaves down the Underground Railroad.
And below that was a sex dungeon.
And below that was a hollow earth where the reptile Jews controlled everything. And I worked my way up from there.
And below that was the swamp with a gator.
And down there, it's swampland. And you don't. Then they had rupees.
Size of a tangerine. New butt plug.
Yeah. So, the Waynes were enormously wealthy, entrenched in Gotham. Seems like it's somewhere in New England, right? Clearly benefiting from, like the North, from the slave trade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But doing something about it without totally upending their own, place in their society, because you're like I said, you're no use dead. And then Alfred makes the same argument to Bruce when he tells me he's got a death wish and stuff like that. Your real superpower is your resources, your intellect. And this is what the qualm that like everybody who analyzes the character of Batman, if he really wanted to fight crime, he wouldn't go out beating people up at night.
Right.
He'd, build some hospitals.
Yeah, he'd build like places to live and fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or
where's the fun in that?
Yeah. Where's the early childhood education?
Teen mothers don't.
Yeah, so
crack is whack.
Inhalants.
Inhale and like Ozzy.
Yeah, you you owe it to your station.
Nice.
I kind of think so too.
Well, I think there's a place you can exist where it's both safe and you're helping, right? And you kind of, I think a lot of these people are that they keep searching until they find that maybe like that line. How close can we get to be able to keep doing this without getting in trouble, but also to keep doing this,
right? But also, like, yes, because sometimes part of helping the cause is doing your job bad.
Sure. Yeah.
Oops, I misplaced a few hundred.
Whoops.
Isotopes. Yeah.
Oops, these bullets are in backwards.
Right.
Yeah. I was talking about that when we were watching the.
You gotta have a man on the inside.
Trial of the Chicago 7 movie, and I was saying, like, the thing, like, it's like, the Black Panther Party was saying, like, oh, the Weather Underground and the White Panther Party, all these, they're like, don't join us, don't try to grab guns, like, can you just talk to your uncle?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like one of those things where you go, like, not as glorious.
You don't have to.
But like, hey, I don't even want to have a gun.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, can you, like, your thing would be so much better used by just working the inside.
Yeah, weaponizing your privilege.
I think weaponizing, and that's the thing that this is the first time I've seen that I've ever heard of that. It was during the protest last summer when people were saying white people get to the front because the cops are less likely to brutalize you.
100%. Yeah.
And that makes sense.
Yeah. I guess except in Chicago, 1968.
Sure. Or, any cops now.
A lot of those guys were Jews, though.
The cops?
No.
Oh, and they could tell?
The 7, yeah.
Like, check out his frizzy hair.
Look at the way he talks.
Got hair like me.
It's okay to beat him.
I mean, it might not have made it different, but it's an important distinction. It's important for people to be aware of.
Isn't it crazy? Like, Operation Human Shield was like turned around.
Yeah, exactly.
It's great.
Human sword. Human phallus?
What?
Elagabalus.
Human phallus, Elagabalus. It was Maya Angelou who did that. Human phallus, Elagabalus. All right, listen. So I'm just trying to set the stage here for the profile we're going to get into. Let's take a little break.
Okay.
And then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. Cool? Is that cool? Is that cool, yo?
That's cool, man.
Paul.
Hey.
That's Paul.
And we're back. Folks, if you don't know already, find us on the PP Podcast on Twitter. It is Profiles in Eccentricity on Instagram. If you want another episode per week of all kinds of other weird shit, Aaron Explains It All, Chopped Up Jukebox. We do additional profiles. We do connections.
Oh,
a lot of other.
I got those, yeah.
Just a cool hangout, fun times.
It is a nice time.
If you don't want to hear us just tell a story, you don't want to hear us wax on other bullshit. An extra episode per week on Patreon, $5 a month. That is Profiles in Eccentricity on patreon.com.
We're also on YouTube.
We are on YouTube, looking quite good.
I know we're gonna get to another pusher, but I re-listened to the Aaron Explains It All of Terminator, and I gotta tell you,
you nailed it.
You liked it, huh?
I really liked it. It was really good, and it was a good conversation. Not just me being brilliant. It was everybody being brilliant, making good points, great observations. I forgot some of the shit that was, pointed out or, elucidated by it.
I didn't know he's a robot.
But in a way, aren't we all? Underneath.
Yeah.
And it's just like a... but I heard Elon Musk talking about Terminator's Terminator's actually a really good script, and he brought up like some Skynet shit, and I was like, somebody fucking get him to listen to that episode so he knows what a real fucking analysis of Terminator sounds like. True. So any of you listeners out there, if you could just bombard Elon Musk to take a listen, Aaron Explains It All, Terminator 1 and Terminator 2, let him know what's up.
Those are on the regular feed.
They are now.
Yeah. And TCU as well.
Yeah.
Both very, very good.
And I do want to, I am going to do Salvation.
We have to.
You're going to do salvation.
You wanted me to.
Well, you told me to do it.
Well, I mean, you could.
Oh, no, I would happily chime into you doing it.
I think that would be nice.
It would be very nice. I'm very glad you're skipping 3 because there's nothing to say about
There's
it.
nothing to say about it.
Nothing. A couple of things to say about it, but not much.
Like don't watch it.
Or it's cool at the end when the machines kill everybody.
Sure.
That is
That's about it.
It's the only redeemable thing about Terminator 3 is how they
do a soft Judgment Day.
But
about how it would start slow.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And it's Skynet saving itself.
Yes. Yeah, that's really fun. I'm very excited about that. I do love Salvation a lot. I know that Richard Park really hates it when I speak up in favor of Salvation.
Well,
but
he's
listen,
gonna hear this and
if
really
we
get
stay
it.
the course, we are dead.
We are all dead.
All dead.
Sorry, Richard.
And Richard, the fact that you don't like it, good for you.
Yeah. And you know what, Richard? You think you're human.
What?
And you're not. That's really good stuff. So
We're
also doing stereo.
We're also doing stereo.
Yeah,
yes.
we have
The
a little
hottest
thing.
app.
We have a little thing on Stereo, the Stereo app. Just stereo.com. Yeah, you get the app.
No, tell people they can actually support profiles by signing up for stereo.
Yeah, you can support profiles by signing up. Just go to stereo.com/profiles or stereo.com/profilespeta or stereo.com/profilesjohn. Just follow those accounts on the Stereo app, and you'll get a notification when we go
Live.
Yeah.
And we do it.
Yeah.
And we'll be talking to each other and other random weirdos that we found on the app, which is really fun.
Yeah,
and
you got to
really
catch
funny.
John catching randos. That's really.
I was just gonna say
Yeah.
you have not experienced
It's like, have you?
the really, if you think we're all good together and we can spin a yarn or we're good at talking and being entertaining, you haven't really got it until you hear John talk to a stranger.
It's the closest thing to when I would be drinking with John at Gold Diggers,
Yeah.
and someone would sit next to him.
Yeah. Yeah, and most of the time, it's just, the funny thing is that all I'm trying to do is make you guys laugh. And so I'm saying just crazier and crazier things to a stranger and watching them react and try to figure out, because then they'll be like, maybe I'm the weird one. I'm like, no, you're not. I'm totally being a psycho to you. But yeah, that's been really fun. I'm Profiles John. You are Profiles PETA.
Mm-hmm.
Matt is Profiles.
Just profiles.
Just Profiles. Stole the show. And I respect that. Also,
Thank you.
Land is a frequent
Contributor? Collaborator?
Yeah.
from Starburns, and he's great. Blobchild is
Yeah, the Blob Child.
not his actual screen name, but he's great too. And check him out one time like this. And yeah, just get on there. We're fucking around. We're having fun, and you can kind of call in and leave us messages. And we've gotten some really very thoughtful messages about profiles and the way we do the show, which is really cool.
That's very nice.
So what I want to talk to you about is a doctor.
A doctor.
Oh no. So we just spent this whole first part defining a line of help or hurt, and now we're talking about a doctor,
Which is so great.
Yeah.
And so he was at Auschwitz, and his name is Hans Münch, and he was from Bavaria, as was Josef Mengele, who was at Auschwitz as well. And he, at first he had things in bacteriology that were advancements in kind of
Germ warfare.
the field of bacteriology, and he was, this is early mid-30s, and he was drawn more and more into what was becoming the National Socialist Hitler Society, and
his name Munch, last name, first name Hans.
Oh, yeah.
which is John basically. Johann is basically John, Hans for short, and he was not really about the party, but there was a thing where if you were advancing almost in any thing
That was the old
at the time, that they were like, okay, but like, are you part of the crew?
Right.
And so it was basically, I think he resisted till like 1937 about joining the party. And
let's say you're doing like really important medical research.
Oh, and now that's going straight to the military too, right? So it's like one of those things where you go like, okay, well, are you down? Like,
this is just like Iron Man 3, you know?
Hit me with that. Come on, give me more.
The character played by
Sam Rockwell?
No. That's Iron Man 2, not the 2.
Oh, my bad.
Not the 3, but the 2. Iron Man 3. I forget her name, but she's the scientist, the female scientist. She played Christine Chubbuck in the Christine movie.
Oh, brilliant actor.
I'm blanking on her name, but she talks about having worked with AIM, Advanced Idea Mechanics, the evil-ish corporation that made the extremists. So and she then quoted, of all people, rocket scientist Wernher von Braun.
Mm-hmm.
What he said, you know what Wernher von Braun said when they launched the first V2 rocket? The mission was a complete success, but it landed on the wrong planet.
Wow.
He was also a monster and hung Jewish workers. But we hired him after that, and we went to the moon.
So it was a planet it was supposed to land on?
Anything but Earth.
Right.
Because they used the V2 rockets to just bomb people, you know?
Yeah. Just to bomb them, basically.
And I'm not...
and God only knows what kind of minorities are on Mars, for instance.
I mean... all sorts of new ones to subjugate.
Yeah, exactly.
Exploit. And I'm not, giving Wernher von Braun a clean slate, but I am making a comic book movie reference, and I will continue to do that because sometimes the pursuit of that
I know about your whole thing with greatness and the Nazis and it being good. I know.
Hey,
I've been friends with you a long time.
I told you that in confidence.
I know. I see what you're saying.
If you're serious,
he was a terrible person, but I understand that when it came to science,
right? And if there's good science to be done, and you try, I'm sure this person is probably better than Wernher von Braun in many ways. Oh, maybe not.
Oh no, I'm not going to tell you anything.
Okay, but I can understand if you are a legit scientist and you know that your work is going to help a lot of people. Sometimes you got to play ball. I can see that argument being made, even with the risk of it falling into the wrong hands or being weaponized.
We can get to Oppenheimer.
Whoa. Yeah. But it's the thing of like this, I think a lot of times for so many people in these things that are a lot of times derided as frivolous and government shouldn't spend money on it, like all that type of thing. It's like a thing where you go like, oh my God, if I finally get a budget, holy shit.
Right. And if you don't do it, somebody else will.
Yes.
And so you're like, well, then I should do it. So that way,
at least
someone worse than me doesn't have control over it. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I'm making fun of you, but what you've said before is a thing where you go like, okay, if the U.S. government does do Operation Paperclip and they have all of this Nazi data, where now they were conducting all these experiments with no moral boundaries whatsoever, that is kind of the pure freaky science, but still the data analysis and findings of which cannot be thrown away because it's the only time we're going to have.
And if not, those people were tortured, mutilated, and died in vain.
For completely nothing. Yes. Completely. It's still very horrific. We both agree, of course.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
Yes. But yeah, there's it's really freaky shit. And like they were like the Nazi regime was almost playing with that on every level in a way, right? Because it was like high corporate atmosphere. It was high pseudo-socialism. It was just like, we're all fucking doing, like, you know what I mean? There wasn't really like it was just like, here's what's going on. It was very just like everybody was in a cult.
It was, without a doubt.
It wasn't like from like, oh, you can't come in this elevator kind of. It was just like, we're all doing the war and we're all trying to get our like national identity back, I think, from post-World War I humiliation, And so, it was really freaky and so easy to get swept up in. And so Hans Münch just said, basically, I did. He's like, I got involved for patriotic reasons because I felt like we were doing good things. And now my work was getting recognized. And, I'm doing this thing about bacteria. And he had, things where he'd be like, oh, no, we should be studying on this kind of basis for a petri dish instead of this basis for a petri dish. Like, all that kind of, like, he had real advancements. And he didn't like the idea, once the war started, of older scientists and doctors going to the front lines and being expendable. He was like, no. He's like, I should go there. He felt sorry for those guys. And he kept being refused because they were like, oh, no, you're too important because of your knowledge about bacterial, like, and stuff like that. So he was trying to serve in the Wehrmacht, and he was just considered indispensable. They were like, no, even though he was
He was an important sprocket in the Macht.
he was definitely late to the game.
But so he was indispensable not because the things he was working on were war related. They just thought he was a really good.
Definitely, the bacteria thing was certainly ready to be weaponized.
Yeah. Okay, so he was working on, and so he was aware that he was working on weaponized.
Well, at the very least, the research can always be weaponized.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Sure.
You know what I mean? So it was that kind of thing. In 1943, in the summer, he was sent to the Hygiene Institute of the Waffen SS in Raskow, and that was
the SS hygiene.
Yeah.
2.5 miles from
The genes are hot.
Yeah.
2.5 miles from Auschwitz, and he was supposed to be in charge of bacteriological research. And Mengele was there at the same time, and he worked with them. And he's also from Bavaria, so they have kind of like a common background, common area of scientific and medical expertise. And he's like considered basically the only person in that time who stayed more to the Hippocratic Oath than the Nazi regime. And he was basically not really singled out amazingly because he would not go on those like selection tours of the camp to go pick out who would be basically tortured and experimented on to death.
Yeah.
He was just like, no, I'm not going to fucking do that.
Yeah.
But he was using live test subjects.
Yes. But then it kind of became like playtime, like a farce.
Sure.
Like he would like fuck around and act like, yo, this experiment's crazy. Oh my God. And the person's just like, what are you doing? And he's like, it's just talcum powder. like he was just,
wow, you're immune to anthrax.
yeah.
It's baby powder.
Yeah.
Right. So he would pretend to put on a show for the bigwigs, or the other people around him while he was not killing someone.
Yeah. And then a lot of the, don't forget, a lot of the people in the camps too would be like more advanced medically in knowledge than them.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. So, yeah. They're sweeping up doctors and scientists. And
so, they would be like, I think there's almost kind of like some judgment there about like, did you save me from my knowledge? Or did you save me because you're a good man? But definitely he at least used the camp prisoners that were like, I think there was a Dr. Mansfeld, and he had a lot of expertise, and he was saved from death by Hans Münch but he kept also at the meantime teaching him everything he knew.
You keep him on as like an assistant or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like that kind of thing. Like, well, you can't get rid of him. He's indispensable to me and my research and my work and all that sort of thing.
We'll never be able to kill as many Jews as we want unless you let me have this guy.
Yeah.
Mansfield's going to hit our numbers.
Yeah.
And so he kind of stuck out a little bit in that way where he wouldn't go out and just pick people for death.
But also maybe that made him look like he was above it. They're like, wow, this guy, he's only thinking about the science, this guy.
Well, that's the thing too, where you go like, you're fucking using your privilege there, right?
Yeah.
Where they go like, oh, this guy, do we let him get away with not indulging this and not getting his hands dirty because we want to have people that have plausible deniability after we win the war and not everybody looks like a savage? It's one of those things, too, where you go, like, are we protecting the upper class in a way? Does that make sense?
I mean, that makes sense, but...
I don't know. I mean, I think they're thinking about world domination.
And he's the best.
And we're not going to have to answer for anything. There's
right,
nothing to answer for.
But there's also not a fucking gun in his face when he doesn't pick out a prisoner.
Because he is doing good work in their eyes.
I think it's kind of the same thing with Stalin and the nuclear scientists. He would fuck with any other type of scientist.
Oh yeah,
nuclear ones. He was like, whatever you think, fellas.
Well, also because there was probably something that even he couldn't have any conception of it. The guy's growing crops and working on crops. He was like, I know how things grow. It was just this level, this science level that he couldn't even conceive of the basics.
It's deferring to the Council of Wizards.
Yes, exactly.
I don't know about this fucking nuclear magic shit, but it seems to be working, so you guys get to do whatever you want. Just don't turn it on me.
Right.
Yeah.
And same thing with bacteria. I mean, bacteriology and germ theory was, pretty new even back then.
Yeah.
It was just, 60, 70 years before that people weren't even washing their hands to do surgery.
Oh, yeah.
Because germs.
Right.
I know.
So this is still, it's something that you can't see. It's hard to wrap your head around. You just know that it works.
Sure.
When I put this powder in somebody's face, they break out in boils and die. That's magic. Mm-hmm. So you're going to let the guy who does the magic do his magic, even if he's not fully committed to the fucking, the
whole process of it.
Yeah.
But so he would basically, tell these people coming into his office, well, don't forget, Mengele is next door doing God knows what to some poor human specimen.
Mm-hmm.
And he would just fuck around with these Jewish captives, and knowing that the longer he kept them acting like there was an experiment going on, the longer it saved them from the gas chamber.
Right. If I shoot him with this steroid, look, he can spin a top on his hand all day.
He would just keep fucking around and acting like there was long-term experiments going down. And then, talk to, some of the, like I said, the medical professionals that were, and so one of them was like, he was like, he gave me medicine for my stomach ulcer, and I would teach him things about my field or whatever, but it wasn't like a quid pro quo thing. It was like, we were just basically killing time to stop me being killed.
Right.
And, so Hans Münch at the trials about Auschwitz in 1947 was the only person acquitted.
That says everything. Maybe
all of these prisoners came forward and were like, he was kind, he was nice, he would not select anybody for death. He would deliberately fake experiments and trials and results and retrials just to save people.
He gave me Tommy John surgery, and I can throw harder than ever.
That man was Sandy Cope.
I make the ball cold facts. That's a pun. But he was,
That's so stupid.
he was at, I think he was at Dachau for a minute, like as the war was like, waning, and then he was found to be okay, like you're a Nazi doctor, and he was, sort of rounded up and sent for trial. And then all of these prisoners came through, and they're just like, no, that guy was really good. And his last act, I think, when Auschwitz was being overrun,
Liberated?
Yes.
Very important distinction.
Well, same thing, yeah.
I know.
It was being overrun, attacked from the.
Yeah, but I mean, think about the power change.
Yes.
Absolutely.
The last thing Hans did was he gave just one of them a revolver and was just like, if you ever have to shoot your way out, here you go.
Wow.
And so he earned the nickname the Good Man of Auschwitz.
Wow.
It's a hell of a nickname. Jesus Christ.
It's better than the bitch of Buchenwald.
It sure is. Yeah. But, he he just didn't subscribe to all that shit really from the beginning. But it was one of those things where he was like, all right, everything, everybody was just so swept up in the national pride and stuff. And
if you're a scientist or like
the advancement of your industry and stuff, it's
greater than the fleeting nature of politics.
It's also narcissistic and egotistical,
sure, of course. But sometimes you're right.
But also it's a thing too about like what could be and like here like what's tomorrow, like maybe I can. I mean, just his things about like using this instead of algae in a petri dish. Yeah. Like they were like, oh, okay, already this guy, like we can't have him be killed.
Right.
And then he's the kind of guy that's like, all right, but all these old fucking doctors and scientists are being killed. He's like, I should be out there.
Right.
And so he deliberately tries to get out of Germany and onto the front lines just because he thinks like it's unfair. He just got married in 1939. He's like really trying to be basically a good dude. And then when he gets out there and he sees these fucking like horrible crimes, and don't forget that shit is not being reported to mainland Germany. Like it's not.
Right, there are German towns.
The sentiment of anti-Semitism, of course, is.
Yes.
But like we are systematically exterminating them, not at all.
Right.
Nobody in the world was fucking knowing that until like they discovered it. And
it was coming back to the United States at some point. But I think
that was Eisenhower.
And
his quote on that?
No, what was it?
He's like, do all the films, write it all down. He goes, because some asshole's going to come around and say this never happened.
Right. And that's why they made, there's pictures of them showing the towns the camps were in.
Yeah.
Making the civilians in the town watch the videos and see the pictures of what was happening, because either they didn't want to know or they were just removed enough from it, not realizing. They just thought it was a camp without realizing what goes on in a camp.
Yeah.
In those camps.
Yeah. They were probably one of those communities that like was like, hey, we got our Jewish people like up the road, They probably like gave somebody up, and it goes like, well, here's what happens.
And that's an interesting discussion of if all of those people in Germany knew what were happening in those camps, would they have so readily given up?
Well, they started with camps, and they would show the footage, and they would show everybody playing soccer and stuff.
Sure.
And people would be like, well, that
seems like a nice time.
Like a time I wish I could play soccer all day.
Look at these people on welfare eating shrimp.
It's like everybody thinking that, prison, they go 3 meals in a cot. And you go like, oh yeah, and no freedom.
Meanwhile, we have this idea of prison in America where like they deserve to get COVID, and it's like they're in prison.
Yeah.
What? No one deserves it, you fucking asshole.
Yeah. I mean, what are we doing about China and their Uyghur Muslims?
Right.
Huh?
The Uyghurs.
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly? It's open. Nothing is being really hidden, but there is a genocide being committed right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Same thing with
what are we doing about
gays in Russia?
What are we doing about
nothing. We're not
gays in Russia.
Yeah, I mean, and that's
gays in Russia.
But that's not even state sponsored though. That is culturally sponsored.
Sure, but also with the encouragement of the state.
Sure, but if
you have a scapegoat,
and I'm only just making the distinction because they're both insidious. And one is like institutional and mechanized and industrialized, and the other is just like so entrenched in the culture that guys will go on dating apps and lure gay guys to their apartments and then just kill them.
Yeah.
And they're both insidious in their own ways.
Absolutely.
Which also like get a hobby.
And also, dude,
how about
gay.
it seriously?
You're gay.
Oh yeah, and get laid.
You hate yourself.
Yeah.
That's the whole fucking thing. But yes, I mean I wonder if what made him stop asking to go to the front at some point. He's like, oh, I can help more by being in the camp. The whole machination's going through his mind of like, what the fuck do I do? What the fuck do I do? What the fuck do I do? How do I do anything without getting fucked?
I think that it was basically like Mengele and people that were like, I need more fucking weirdos here that specialize in some high science to do weird shit. Mm-hmm. And there's no better place to do it than in a war crime zone.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do war crimes, what better place?
That's why he got there.
Yeah.
Because at first they were like, indispensable, can't die.
So it was like one of those movies like, give me the best. and he's like in the woods somewhere, and he's like, I'm never gonna do biological warfare again.
So, he goes on to
your country needs you, Hans. Okay, this is one last time.
It was December
I'm getting too old for this shit.
The decision to acquit him from the Auschwitz trial, December 22nd, 1947, quote, not only because he did not commit any crime or harm against the camp prisoners, but because he had a benevolent attitude toward them and helped them while he had to carry the responsibility. He did this independently from the nationality, race, and religious origin and political conviction of the prisoners.
Is there like a fucking statue for him? Because that says so much about someone.
He was the only one out of 41 acquitted.
That's amazing.
And this is like Nuremberg trials?
This is the specific Auschwitz trials.
Wow.
And
that'd have its own fucking set.
He goes back to Germany, and he's back in Bavaria, and he went to the second Auschwitz trial in 64, and that,
God, I mean, that's like,
64?
yeah,
like almost 20 years later.
I've never even heard of that. 64?
Like,
Yeah.
we're still fucking doing this.
Yeah.
well, a lot of people slip through the cracks,
I imagine. Yeah.
Have another one. Go for it.
Yeah.
Please.
They're still capturing
They're still
people.
doing it now in their hundreds. It's crazy.
God, I know. Fucked up.
What a mess.
So here's the fucked up shit, right?
Oh.
In his old age, he got Alzheimer's, and he made several public statements in support of Nazism.
John.
Oh, no.
Good work. It was really good work. Plus, I lied. I killed a lot of kids, man.
Of course they're inferior, you stupid fuck.
I mean, what was he talking about? Like he was still in like 44? He's like, the 44 Yankees are the best baseball team.
He was
also the Nazi.
because saying that type of shit was now a crime in Germany, which also is
Very
a bad idea.
Yeah.
To say things should not be a crime. I'm sorry.
Sure, but you have to admit that they dealt with their crimes better than the United States had dealt with the Civil War.
Well, it's because they had a much better education program on the truth of the atrocity, as opposed to
They didn't
a lot
name
of slaves liked their jobs.
They didn't name their buildings after slave owners.
Right. They did a much better job of really highlighting the terror, and it was more recent.
And it's different. It's not the same, but yes.
No, you're right. It's an important distinction to make. Should Holocaust denial be a crime punishable by law? Who's to say?
Here's what do you mean? Who's to say?
I don't think it should be.
I don't think it should
Okay, we'll
be
make a
either.
fucking stand. Who's to say?
I think I know. I was going to.
In this particular case, he was held on trial for such statements, and they were just like, "Oh yeah, he's fucking out of his mind," and he was acquitted of everything. They were just like, "Oh yeah, like
the fucking
He has
Teflon doc."
Alzheimer's. He has
Also, it's the
Alzheimer's.
thing
Oh,
that
Jesus
the
Christ.
fucking the dementia thing makes you not only be saying crazy shit. It's usually ornery.
Yeah, or racist shit.
Yeah, it's fucked up stuff.
Yeah, they're
Diametrically opposed to everything he'd been saying in interviews
He's
all
sick.
of his life for years.
He's sick now.
Where he's just going like, and he was never holding himself up as a fucking hero.
Right.
He was just going like, I was the bravest amount of cowardly possible. And I think that was a good role, and that was really what saved him. And don't forget, everybody at those trials could have been like, yeah, you know what, he was all right, but fuck him too. They could have been.
Right.
And instead they were just like, oh no, he really actually tried very hard to help us out.
If you're
really that hurt, like you can just be like, yeah, he wasn't as bad, but he let it happen.
Yeah, if there's a prison riot going on and you're the warden that the fucking inmates just walk by, you're doing something right.
Yeah, right. But
because they could and have every reason to fuck you up.
Yeah.
You are still a part of the machine of oppression.
Yeah.
And if you're on that other side of the wall or the bars, and they're still given the opportunity, they don't fuck you up,
Mm-hmm.
It says something.
But obviously they recognized something that not only did they know afterwards, but they probably knew during the time. And it was something that they knew was a secret enough to not say it so often that the people who ran the camp knew it either.
I'm sorry. Can you explain that again?
So they everybody who was at all of the prisoners who made positive statements for him, they recognized it. Obviously, enough people knew afterwards, but all of those people also knew at the time, and they knew if they spoke up, they were gonna get him killed. And so they had to keep it secret in the camp.
Oh no, yeah,
and so that's a whole nother. So these guys are going, hey, we need to keep this secret. But wait, did he do that to you too? Because he did it to me. Why? How did you come back here? The last 10 people that went in, no one came back. What are you doing back here?
Yeah. Well, it's that thing, if there was, some stringent, hot Nazi woman with the stirrups and the ephemera and all that, and she holds a fucking gun to Aaron's head, and she's like, "What did he say about Paul?" And I'm like, "I don't know.
It's just like him."
And I'm like, I don't know. She's like, "I'm gonna fucking kill you. I'm gonna kill him." And I'm like, he said it's just like it's one of those things where you can be a coward very fast. So yes, he was absolutely exposing himself every time he was helping out a camp prisoner, because they were just putting the most barbaric life or death, second by second, minute by minute, day by day choices all the time. So yeah, if any of them got fucking like roughed up and were like, what was your experiment about? And it was just like, it was nothing. It was talcum powder.
Yeah. We won't kill you if you tell us.
Yeah.
It's this interesting like experiment in game theory, because like, the prisoner's dilemma, that thing where like, if let's say you and I are arrested, and the cop comes to us and says, all right, give up everything and we'll give it easy, make it you get off easy, he dies, I die, right? Or the other way around. The best move for everybody is if we both say nothing, because then they have nothing and they both let us go. But like a kind of halfway move is if I turn you in. That means I know that I get a little bit of leniency, but you die. But the best winning move for both of us is for both of us to not say
shut up,
right? And that's, if one person in the situation that Münch and the prisoners are in fucks up, they're all dead.
Yeah.
And that's like a very, very interesting like dangerous game that they played that worked seemingly. Yeah. Because it would only take one person to crack under pressure, have loose lips, and then like the doctor's dead. No more people are saying, like, they'll just put the fire, the prisoners to a firing squad or something, or throw them in the gas chamber. And it's just this very interesting testament to solidarity.
Yeah, but you would think it would almost be like there'd be like mass suspicion like from the get-go, where you're like, hey,
yes, that's why it's so fucking amazing that it worked.
Yeah, but like you're like, oh, he won't go out and select for death, and he's just like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Fucking fuck that shit,
Well, but it also that maybe because unlike Mengele, so if he was doing the same thing Mengele was doing, they'd be like, well, why aren't your results like Mengele's? He's presenting himself as like above it or different,
Yeah,
I'm no good at picking people for death. Mengele is so much better. Let him pick them.
Mengele's stuff was so off the wall, he could almost fake the results too.
I bet he did.
Yeah, he probably did. Yeah,
of
course he did.
I bet there were half of the time it wasn't even for results.
Yeah,
it was just to say he did it.
Yeah.
So God. You ever hear about the Japanese Dr. Death? The Japanese version of Mengele?
Unit, what is that?
Yeah, Unit 413 or 430.
Yeah, something like 837.
Yeah. 824.
I'm not joking. There's
I know. But
no, there's a Unit 413 or something like that. And he had
exploitation movie based on it. Black Sun. Oof. And it's about all that fucked up shit. So now here's the crazy thing, is that there was also a guy named, his name was John Rabe, and R-A-B-E, and he was a businessman in Nanking. when the Japanese invaded. And so he basically went to the invading Japanese and he was like, if I create a zone where there's no military Chinese threat, he's like, will you leave these people alone?
Was he American?
Total
or
Nazi.
Chinese or
100%?
Oh, he was a Nazi.
He was another like nice Nazi.
He was a German Nazi in Nanking.
In Nanking as a businessman, and he was able to use his Nazi credentials to stop the slaughter of Chinese citizens by the Japanese because Hitler was an ally of the Japanese.
right.
Wait, what was it? What was his name?
John Rabe.
Man, how are they like? It seems like
It
that
is. No,
act itself is like that name should be.
Yeah, and so he created basically what was considered like a no conflict zone, and so he would go to the Chinese authorities and he would be like, "Get your fucking military people out of here because I need to just have this citizenry in here." And he kind of liked that they were looking to him for authority. He had been there a while, but he was also at this time, 1937, fervent Nazi, completely believed in German nationalism. But he was just like, he saw what was happening with the Japanese and the Chinese, and he was like, "Oh, this is wrong. This is not right." So he saw,
That's so weird.
But meanwhile, the Jews probably.
but it's not really. If you take into account that a lot of people didn't know what was going on.
Well, sure. No, yeah. No, I understand that. Absolutely.
And so a big thing was in Nanking, he kind of halted the forces from completely sweeping in and invading and raping and murdering. And that allowed for, they think, hundreds of thousands
Jesus Christ
to escape from China.
Wow.
And then once that was kind of over, then he basically cordoned off like a non-hostility zone in Nanking.
Just a good time. Good time place.
But yeah, also if you weren't in that, oh my God,
Yeah,
it
Jesus
was one of
Christ.
the worst atrocities of all time.
Yeah.
But believe it or not, yeah, one of the guys that saved Chinese lives was a fucking dyed-in-the-wool Nazi named John Rabe.
Man.
If you're just joining us,
we're doing our Nazi apology tour.
this is the Nice Nazi podcast. No, I mean,
Nazi fever.
catch it.
Yikes.
No, it's fucked up and it's weird. I mean, Hans at the end of his life just coming up being like, "They're inferior." I'm like, it's like the funniest thing in the world to me. Where
I put inferior brains in
where
them.
you go like, "Oh my God, you're the only saving grace," and then he's like, "I'll tell you what's wrong with the world is Judaism." Like, I'm sorry that it's funny to me, but it is.
It's funny, and it would be funnier if it wasn't so tragic.
I thought you were going to say so true.
No,
Jesus Christ.
really what it is just the horror of
Mental illness.
dementia, man. It's so,
Oh yeah.
they get so mean.
No, any type of those end of life things. I just learned recently that like people with terminal cancer, often, but not always, they reach a moment where they get really mean when the end is coming. Like in the last few months, they get really like fucking shitty.
No
Your mother
shit.
sucks cocks in hell.
Yeah. Like they'll fucking just like go off at family members and stuff. And people are like, "I've known you, and for 99% of your life, you weren't like this. And yet for the last 3 months of your life, you were just the meanest person in the world."
Yeah.
And I mean, Alzheimer's and dementia are obviously different because it takes away the brain. But the end of life shit.
Yeah, no, I mean,
a fucking mess.
You can't be really mad at it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So yeah,
I am. I'm mad about
I'm taking a stay.
Yeah.
so there was some kind of differentiating, like, viewpoints. Some people were saying like, "Oh, Münch did take part in selections, and he would cook dead people in a broth and all that stuff." But like the vast majority of people,
He wasn't.
were just like, "No, that's not true."
It's technically a stock. Idiot.
And
This is where your argument falls apart.
it was he was supposed to be infecting people with rheumatism and
And he may have infected people with rheumatism.
well, I mean, so they say, but most people are saying like, "Oh, he basically just played around and never did anything wrong to me."
Well, the ones that are dead can't speak up.
Sure, that's totally fair.
There are probably some people that he did it to.
I wouldn't listen. I would be surprised if he didn't.
Yeah.
So after the war, 45, he's arrested in a U.S. internment camp after being identified as an Auschwitz physician. He's extradited to Poland to stand trial in Krakow in 46. He was specifically accused of injecting inmates with malaria-infected blood and with a serum that causes rheumatism. However, many prisoners testified in support of Münch in their witness speeches. The court acquitted him 22nd December 1947, not only because he didn't commit any crime of harm against the camp prisoners, but because he had a benevolent attitude towards them, as I told you, and helped them while he had to carry the responsibility. He did this independently from the nationality, race, and religious origin and political conviction of the prisoners. The court's acquittal was based, among other things, on his strict refusal to participate in the elections. He was the only one acquitted, and he was considered to have saved so many people from the gas chambers. Yeah. I mean, if you even just think about the last act where you go like, here's a gun. That was something that a lot of people, coming out would be like, thank you so much, because now we're going out into the wilderness. Like, even if the concentration camp is done, who knows what craziness we're going to fall into.
Right.
The scariness of
Well, I mean, as they're being overrun, the Nazis are doing everything they can to get rid of the evidence, aka the people there.
Yeah.
So there's still...
If they're not trying to slip in as able-bodied and well-fed people.
I was just eating a lot.
Amongst a bunch of...
I have a glandular problem.
Where's the chosen ones?
It's also...
I hope we get to Homeland out of this.
It's also a big gamble because he doesn't know that the liberation's going to be successful.
Right. Or that guy won't shoot him in the fucking
that he
head.
won't be committed for, he won't be killed for treason if he gets found out.
And he
From
almost,
the Germans?
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking the whole way through.
Well, he gave him a gun at the end. And that's very overt.
He did give him,
or that they might fucking shoot him.
And that's kind of what I was saying to you, is like, there's a lot of people that just be like, oh yeah, you're one of the good ones.
Right.
One of the guys that watched us under barbed wire every day. Like, fuck you too. Like,
right, exactly.
As soon as you give somebody a gun, it's easily...
I mean, I'm guessing he gave it to a guy that he had some sort of connection to.
Cut his fingers off.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Here's a gun.
Are you left-handed?
But that was the thing too, is that, part of his thing with helping out Mansfield was just to be like, you're a greater man of science than I am, and you must live.
Right.
Nobody else would get medicine. He would give him medicine for his stomach ulcer. Because he was just like, you're more qualified here than me or anybody else. He's like, you are the smarter physician.
Yeah.
And
well,
so Mansfield was the big one that stuck up for him at the trial and was just like, yeah, he did everything to avoid sending people to death, avoid people getting out of the experiment. Because once you were done with experiments, don't forget, you were useless.
Yeah.
So he would just elongate.
I got a real long-term experiment with this guy.
Yeah. I got to see if he can be a good assistant. Can he listen? But I think with a guy like Mansfield, I think, it's you wonder what's going through Munch's mind, right? Who do you choose to throw yourself, to help? And Mansfield was probably the smartest one, but there were people that weren't as smart as Mansfield that he helped, right? And so was Mansfield that type of thing where he's making excuses for himself of like, I'm helping people. Oh, okay. Well, no, I'm helping this genius. That's the, of course I'm not, so he's giving himself an excuse. I'm just trying to get into his head of trying to figure out like what was going on in his head when he's trying to choose who to help and who he doesn't.
Okay, but that's an interesting open thing of discussion that I think I would like to hear both of you from. What do you think the Nazis would feel about taking medical advice from a Jewish physician that was kind of more esteemed than any of theirs? Do you think they would just be like, okay, we're going to take this and then kill you? Or do you think they would throw it under doubt if they were a dyed-in-the-wool Nazi physician?
A Nazi physician?
Yes.
Like some other doctor?
Indoctrinated.
Like another doctor on the...
Not Münch, yes.
Were they... I mean, was Münch saying where he got it from? Where he got the advice from?
What advice?
From the Jewish doctor. What I'm asking is, you're asking me what the Nazi would feel like taking medical advice that originated.
Yes,
from
would they want to?
How would they know that it came from them?
Well, I mean,
no, if they weren't Munch. If they weren't Munch,
if it was if they weren't dealing with Munch, if it was Mengele dealing with Mansfeld and knowing his background,
was that a fact? Was that a
no. Munch was dealing with Mansfeld,
right?
But what I'm saying is, would a Mengele have taken on the medical expertise of a lifetime physician that was Jewish?
So this is a hypothetical.
Completely hypothetical.
I don't know. If it's Mengele, I'd be like, well, does it hurt? If it hurts, yeah, I'll take the advice.
But that's experimenting on. That's not taking
medical advice for. I mean, it's a weird thing with the Holocaust is that when you're eliminating an entire race of people, but they also have like a disproportionate representation in like medicine and economics and science. You are eliminating cultural capital.
Dark Ages, right?
Yeah, you're kind of like ensuring your own downfall when you're getting rid of such like intellectual capital. I mean, sure, yeah, there was so Jewish carpenter, people, just regular blue collar workers too, but a lot of
the first Jewish guy I knew that was like
a carpenter.
He's a plumber.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Jesus.
No. He's the first guy. So I was always thinking like this Jewish elite thing. I was like, don't get me. Plumbers do well.
Yeah, it's a great job.
But I was like, that was just a regular Long Island guy to me,
right?
And a good guy.
Yeah.
And more than that, he was also very he was very down for his people, and but he was a sweet guy, a good guy, and but it wasn't anything of like this like elitist.
Yeah.
I'm like the reason entertainment is always so prevalent in Jewish families is because they're just like kids put on a show for like they're always like open to it. It's not as if like the dad's just drinking at the table and being like go to bed. You know what I mean? Like they're so open to first of all discussion, education.
Yep. Well, it has a lot to do with their history as like an itinerant migrant people.
It's deep cultural affinity.
Yeah.
On a level that I think a lot of other cultures.
And they were reading for fucking 2,000 years before everybody else figured it out.
Yeah.
And they kept it going.
And I think a lot of other cultures are a tiny bit jealous of the family dynamic, even though it can be still old school and dysfunctional and so on.
Yeah, and oppressive. But it's still.
But it gets also a lot of boost from the mother being so important.
It is. Yeah, the mother runs the show.
The mom being so
You're not Jewish
important.
unless your mother is Jewish.
Exactly.
It's matrilineal.
Yes. So that gives a big old boost to people being like, okay, well, your dad can't be quite the prick he might be.
Yeah. Nobody ever complains about their Jewish father.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's not true.
Oh, Jesus.
They definitely do.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a little more like you're
Krusty the Clown.
What I'm saying is the mother is it's a matriarchy.
It's more of a matriarchy, and usually the complaints about the Jewish mother are like,
she loved me too much.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Or she created the Marx Brothers. Yeah.
And it's just like, boom.
If you're just joining us, it's 3 Goyim talking about Judaism like we know it. So to answer your question, how do I think Goebbels would feel?
Mengele.
Yeah, sorry, Mengele would feel.
Would he just take anything he could?
Yeah, I think probably. I mean, they had no problem fucking, reaping the benefits of other cultures as long as it was a benefit.
Yeah.
And that kind of almost includes just like the spiritual heist stuff of Indiana Jones that they were kind of interested in.
Yeah.
Too, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
right. It was
one of those things where they're like, yeah, I'll take anything.
right. Well,
Meanwhile, Indy.
right. I mean, which is different than, and I'm not saying one is better than the other, but in the States, in the United States, with blacks and like slaves, is that they couldn't, the white elites couldn't even imagine that their slaves were smart enough to plot against them.
Well, also at the same time, that's why they wouldn't.
That's why they didn't let them read and whatnot. But
because they knew that they would. They knew they were doing something so bad that if they learned to read,
right,
they would fight them.
Right. Or I mean, if they're gonna read something, have them read the Bible.
Right.
Especially the parts where it says "slaves obey your masters."
Right.
Wow, really? Yikes.
Yeah, it's in the Bible. Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what else is in the Bible? How to perform an abortion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only time abortion is mentioned in the Bible is how to do one.
It's a pretty important.
Well, if you're gonna do it, you got to do it right.
Oh yeah.
Don't fuck this up.
No.
Tell my Mary, I don't want any more trouble, okay?
But I mean, I think what I'm getting at is kind of the below suspicion.
Right.
So, here it seems like they were too dumb to even be considered, worthy of suspecting them. But I don't think that was the case with the Nazis and the Jewish intelligentsia.
Let me tell you something.
I think part of the thing was that they were too wily in their eyes, right? They were
Too
wily, conniving.
the Jewish population?
That was part of their propaganda, right? They're
gonna trick you.
Yeah, and so I think
that's still a propaganda.
It's still out there. So I think that
it's so fucked up though, because like they like a lot of, I know some German Jews that still very much identify as German Jews.
Well, yeah. Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's who they are. What
like,
are they supposed to identify
I know.
as?
Well, you fucking wouldn't want to maybe after that. You might
No, you are who you are.
Even in America.
It's a form of pride and strength to say, I don't give a shit about I am this.
Of course, yeah. And that's very much the same thing with the Iranian Jews that would not accept the 30 grand from Israel to come move there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the Orthodox,
that's
Jews in Iran were like, no, fuck that. We don't care what they say. Like, we don't care if the Iranians deny the Holocaust. Of course, the Holocaust happened. It was terrible. But we are Iranian Jews and almost like basically fuck Israel.
Yeah.
And it was kind of in this way of like that sect of Judaism saying, we are not a country and we will not be kind of
turned into one.
Yeah.
Or held to the opinions of one man that might be the elected leader.
Yeah, exactly.
And therefore turning the world anti-Semitic again.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of Jewish people that believe like we are internally supposed to be nomadic.
That's very
and I respect that a lot. Yeah. I think that's really cool.
Definitely.
And I think it's so funny with the Germans who was like, they have the Jewish population during the Roman Empire who are, exceeding, the age of the Roman Empire and therefore kind of more advanced and therefore putting out early kind of Marxist people like Jesus Christ. And, this inherent ideological threat based on the age of their civilization.
Right, because it is just a return to normalcy. Because prior to like civilization, everything was truly communist. You lived in a band of 150, 500 people, and you all shared everything.
Yeah.
That's all there was. And
you move this place, you move that place.
And then people settled down.
Yeah.
And started owning shit.
Yeah.
And then selling people and like, making money. And so that having that ancient perspective that Judaism can bring is really just a return to how things were.
Which is frightening for the people in power.
Of course. Because we got all these acronyms.
But also, not only that, but there's a lot of, people have a lot of inferiority complexes, as we can see.
Not you, maybe you, bro.
In modern politics. So I think, it's like, there's one of those things where you see like a guy and he's reading a fucking book backwards and you're like, what the fuck is this bastard's problem? And then like, and he goes like, oh, you should wash your hands. And you're like, I don't think so. And he's like, you're a fucking retard. And he keeps reading backwards and you're like,
you're reading the book backward.
And you're like, what the fuck is it? And so there, with kind of knowledge and education, there is this determined thing of elitism, which is really just, we're not really on, like, you just haven't got here yet.
I don't think it's with knowledge and education. I think it's more of I don't think that necessarily breeds that type of
inferiority complex.
Yeah. Because there's plenty of stupid people that have inferiority complexes.
There are plenty of stupid people that what?
Have inferiority complexes.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what he's saying.
I'm
he's saying that
right.
He says that if you're a Roman citizen.
Oh, I thought you were saying that with education comes inferiority.
No.
Okay.
He's saying like you're a Roman citizen and you can't read.
Right. There could
you
be
smell like shit.
Yeah.
Right.
You're sick.
I understand that. Yeah.
And
then check this out.
You see some weird Jewish guy who doesn't look like you reading.
Not only that.
Sure. No. Okay. I understand.
Back in the day, the fucking the poor slave Spartacus is like, I could overthrow Rome if only I could get these wild Germans on my side.
Right.
And he goes like, I can't tame them. So the most trains on time thing that we take for granted in Europe now, the German we do everything they used to be the craziest people in Europe, to the point that like Spartacus was like, I can get everybody that's against Rome to fight except I just cannot control.
Right.
I think it was specifically the Bavarians, but like,
and that was the thing.
But that
eventually
they
worked.
would become the people that felt superior to the people that felt superior to Rome is fascinating to me.
Well, and then what's also fascinating is that the Third Reich was modeling itself as being a new Roman Empire.
It completely was, yes. Yeah, and that's why they were so down with Mussolini and also so disappointed with him.
Yeah.
It was convenient, it seems like, for them. You know,
I guess
Mussolini seems like such a
strategically
weird
important.
character.
It's a place in the Mediterranean that they could get that because Spain was off limits. They got a little bit of France, but like Italy is.
Are you talking about the Nazis with Europe?
Yeah.
This leader that woke up at noon that was addicted to speed was like, Mussolini seems like he'll take care of it. Just like this.
Oh no, he was really enthralled with Mussolini. Hitler was very much like, oh my god, that guy's so cool.
Yeah.
And then he kind of saw,
not like Franco.
He kind of saw what he was doing. He was like, oh man, fucking Mussolini, god,
man, he's so cool.
Yeah, no, he really did.
Yeah.
Really, really did. And he was, kind of jealous of the new Roman Empire thing.
Yeah.
Well, because he was already there. He was already...
And they thought, now it's just the German turn. And that was like the whole start of everything with the First World War. The Germans thought like, we haven't been a country. Everybody has all this colonial shit. It's our turn.
Yeah.
And the weird thing now is that, like, now it's actually their turn. And it's completely nonviolent. It's totally structure-based, and it's totally like, hey, let's keep this fucking EU shit together. And it's all Angela Merkel and, I think kind of a very browbeaten populace that's like,
maybe.
Hey, we really got to stop trying to kill everybody because that's not worked out well for us. But yeah, it's crazy to think about all of the times that Jewish people have had to flee this area of Europe to this area, to this area, to this area.
Well, it's because any state doesn't like it when a population or a part of the population has a loyalty to something else first.
Right.
Maybe, but some of that loyalty is built in because the state doesn't give a shit about them. And I'm thinking about
most states don't give a shit about people.
No, but I'm saying no, but like in America,
in the upper class, yes.
In America, like there are built-in. We give a shit about these people. What America has done to black people, even if black people give a shit about the state, America still doesn't care about that.
Yes,
unless they have enough money to.
They are excluded from certain economic things.
Jews, blacks.
Well, in this country, pretty much everybody that's, say, if you want to just say the insider trading based on Donald Trump telling everybody like, "Hey, this COVID thing is really gonna fuck shit up."
I'm talking about historically.
I know, but in other states there would be, like say Jewish populations in Portugal, let's say, that were savvy enough to be like, "Oh, okay, we can see the way that the market works," and then other people don't like it because they don't see it as shrewdly or quickly, and then they can get bigoted.
Of course,
right?
Sure.
Because what you have here is a group of people that have had a longer civilization,
and they've
so
held
they
it
know
together
the signs.
unbroken.
So they know the signs.
Of course.
But I think what happened after that was that they were just kind of like, okay, we need to bring everybody in more. And that's kind of what happened. And a lot of it was just through like these creating like different methods of having things be like acknowledged and fair as a system,
Explain.
Well, like insofar as say economics and things like that, they would be like, okay, here's the rules and here's new rules. And this is what it takes to like repossess this land based on debt and stuff like that. And they would just like institute rules for everybody to follow because the people that were there in charge before were like, oh, we don't know what to do.
Now, these are the Golan Heights. And what we're going to do is take them.
But I mean, I'm serious, like economic things like that, where it's like, if you don't.
Well, because they're the 10 most famous rules are written by a Jew.
That's right.
That comes with writing and reading and codifying,
but also just
and they've been doing it the longest.
Literature on how to
5,000 years of rich history unbroken from Moses to Sandy Koufax.
And what does that do? What's the main point of that? To have everybody live together peacefully, equally, in a way that
it's a no-state solution.
In a way that they think is just.
Yeah.
Right. And
if you go like, okay, I know this is.
And if you're a state, and yet you see that there is an element within your boundaries that is arguably doing it better, cheaper, more efficiently, decentralized.
Oh, well, then it's an election ruse where you can be like, what we need to do is get rid of. Yeah, it's a thing where you go like.
Exactly. And that's why they've been scapegoated all the time because they've been ever present. Everywhere.
Easy to accuse of elitism.
Yes, because they are inherently a population-wise minority.
Yeah.
They don't have numbers. And then you make them take the jobs that you don't want to do. and then they do those well.
Yeah.
And then you blame them for it.
Yeah.
It's very, very fucked up. I'm not for it.
No.
I'm taking a stand. I'm anti-Holocaust. And I'm sticking by it. You may not agree with me. I know, Matt, you won't.
you said
it's so I think Mengele would probably take the advice. He's got a good Jewish doctor as a prisoner.
Yeah, is this where we're coming back to it?
Yeah.
I think it's a theory of archetypes. That's all that whole idea is. Would someone take it or would someone not? We've seen all of these.
I don't think any of those guys would have left anything behind if it meant getting to the next kind of level of. They were just so ambitious and I think.
No, but it's someone like Mengele. What's the next step? Even though he's as close to God as he'll ever be, and he knows it.
I think it's kind of predatory and sick in the way where like they almost want to overwrite Jewish history in their own way.
Well, absolutely. That was like so much of what they did is why would you burn a book?
Yeah.
In order to destroy the things it has in it.
Yeah. But here's the thing about burning the book is you read it first. That's the thing that.
Well, in theory you do.
Oh no, I think they completely do.
Maybe there's someone who does, but I think it's a lot for the type of people
you burn the masses. No, the masses aren't.
No, but I'm just saying. Yeah, there's probably someone who does. But look at all the people that are saying, like, trying to, even in America, they're saying, don't read Huck Finn, it's racist.
Yeah.
They haven't read that book.
Mm-hmm. But Goebbels' Gallery of Degenerated Art was like, if you were in that, you were considered like one of the greatest artists of the 20th century.
Sure, but that's different.
But,
you actually have to put effort into reading a book.
Right, but also you got to understand that if you were in that exhibit, Goebbels, or at least his people, had intricate knowledge of your work and its point.
Sure, yeah.
Because it's not fit for consumption.
Right. It's
right. We can have it.
Yeah.
Right, and maybe
it's too dangerous to let everybody have it. But the fucking Nazi elites, you don't think they were fucking consuming all sorts of fucking inappropriate materials?
Of course, yeah. I guess the people in America on the right who are anti-Huck Finn, they've read the book. And the people on the left who are anti-Huck Finn haven't read the book, is what I'm saying.
Wait, I don't know what you mean.
Because people on the right
it's funny how now those two groups have overlapped.
Yeah. Because people on the left who haven't read the book, they're anti-Huck Finn because it has the N-word in it. And that's it. But the people on the right who are anti-Huck Finn have read the book and see that is actually anti-slavery. It's a book about treating Huck and becoming friends with Jim, and Huck understanding what Jim is going through, and them becoming a connection and seeing each other through each other's eyes.
Yeah.
So anybody on the right who's understood the book, they want to get rid of it because
they've
actually read it.
I mean, God, it's the dumbest thing in the world.
But that's a whole nother thing. We don't have to get into that.
But also just, I mean, if you're censoring books, I mean, Jesus Christ. What the hell are you doing? You're a psycho.
Just think about that step.
Well, anyway, I just, Hans Munch.
Very fascinating. Never heard of him.
Yeah.
You like that
never heard,
shit?
Never heard of him.
Good Man of Auschwitz?
The Good Man of Auschwitz.
And, wait, was it Jabe? What was it?
Rabe.
Rabe.
Is that
John Rabe?
Is it pronounced like broccoli Rob?
I don't know.
Yeah,
R-A-B-E.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably an accent.
Yeah, it's probably. I would imagine if it's German, it might be Rob. I don't know. But,
John Robbie.
Oh.
Why is he not a Han?
Yeah, he was just. I mean, he was really
Chinese.
Full blown. Obviously, probably more of an industrialist.
Right. I love the phrase full blown.
And way into the Nazi shit. But he was just like, oh yeah, this is fucked up, and that's not right. And I'm over here doing this thing on behalf of the National Socialist government, and suddenly the Japanese are coming in here, and they are our allies, and I mean, it was really just that.
Well, he probably, having lived there and been with those people, he probably had some level of respect or understanding for him, and said, we shouldn't do this to people.
During the Axis powers, just the pause to stop them coming into the quadrant.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
Hundreds of thousands.
That's crazy.
Of lives saved. Hundreds of thousands. And then I think within, the kind of like no fight zone, it was maybe like 500,000 or something. And estimates for the rape in Nanking, I think, are as high as 300,000.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
It's really, really rough stuff.
Not a good time.
And a weird thing to think about, a high-ranking Nazi official in a foreign post, and then almost seeing the war to come on the high casualty side, and like, I mean, think about that. That's 37. That's like
37 is early. Yeah,
that's before. That's before Hans even joins.
Yeah,
the Nazi party. He joins in like he actually joined.
Fuck, the Raven Man King was in 37?
It's way early, yeah.
God.
So he's.
I thought it was later than that.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
I was assumed he was part of like like World War II was
the
like
peak.
it started here and
It
ended
started
here.
on December 7th, 1941.
and no one fought before that.
Right.
Yeah. It was kind of the weird thing we were seeing about the Russian Revolution with they were thinking the war against, what was it, Japan or something? Early 1900s, like they had a war against
Yeah.
Japan, and they were fucking it up.
Yeah.
They're like losing.
Yeah.
And Lenin was going like, oh, well, fucking, there's not going to be a revolution now.
Yeah.
He was just like giving up.
Yeah.
And, like,
then years later, he started grassrootsing it.
Yeah. I was talking about like he was in Siberia and he goes like, the locals just hang out with the prisoners. He's like, murderers. He's like, I'm talking murderers. People come up and be like, what's your life flag?
What's your sign?
The weirdest shit of all time. He's like, what's going on?
It sounds like a
Pretty fucked up here in Siberia, huh?
sounds like a book, like Lenin in Siberia. You're like, oh, what happened?
I bet you wish you were back in Moscow killing people. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so sad that he just had this fucked up dementia shit at the end when.
Well, you know what? He earned it.
I mean, that's not on him. It's sad, but it's also like it's not like a
Do you know what it really,
personal.
Do you know what it
fucking
makes me
thing.
feel bad about is
The person who who was watching him, the person who had to clean him.
No, it makes me feel like the person that was like, oh, here's my dad that like got to Israel and like now I'm an Israeli and like he said this was one good guy. And then he comes out in like 2000
Right.
when he's like 99 years old and he's like, they're inferior. And you're like, what?
But also,
But he's
if your dad was understood context and stuff enough, like you hopefully you also took an element of intelligence from your dad to be like,
of course.
Okay, I know.
No, the decades of interviews with Münch after were like
Very lucid and
yeah, you could tell like, oh, he's actually a good dude.
Right.
But then
he liked the Beatles.
But he would also say things like, people would be like, oh, would you go back? Like they would try to challenge him. They'd be like, would you go back and do it again if you could? And he was like,
I don't.
Yeah, he goes like, the opportunity was incredible in my field.
yeah.
And like, he's just being honest.
Yeah.
Like he's like, with the knowledge I had, yeah, he's like, I didn't know,
Man, those questions are always asking for someone to be like, I hate my life. I feel like
Yeah, it's kind of.
What do you want me to? I mean, like, there's some other asshole who didn't have the conscience that I had would do that work and just fucking not save people. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
I would do it as a duty to humanity.
I would take up hot air ballooning.
Exactly. Like,
Fly
aren't
away.
you glad I was there?
Yeah.
You know? And also, it just makes me think of that thing that I don't think people really take for granted when they look at the Second World War and view it like they always view it as a thing of like it's like mythological.
Oh
It's
yeah.
became Star
mythology.
Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It became Star Wars, but like
I mean, especially with the generations of people that were in it.
right. But if you're in fucking New York or fucking Munich,
Yeah.
Tokyo,
It was so. I mean,
imagine just being like, hope we win
Yeah.
year after year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also like, hey, remember the war that was called the Great War? Not anymore.
Yeah. But also they're also
Listen,
Remember that war you was looking for?
they're also used to it. I think that's why like Vietnam. I mean, we could. This is a
Oh
whole
man,
nother
it's getting
thing,
so
but like
fucked up.
Vietnam,
I mean, the
French.
everybody's parents, everybody's dad, like was in a war for like 2 or 3 generations, right?
Yeah.
There was just this thing, and especially in Europe before the 1900s, it was just like here's a war. Like how France got the shape it is today. It took so many fucking wars every.
Matt, but I
10
think
years.
you're right. But go just say everybody in history up until
Yeah.
1900.
Yeah.
It was you were. if you were a man
growing
up in the world during civilization, you're probably going to be in a war.
Yeah.
Or a battle.
Yeah, and you're like,
you're going to have to fight for your life, and you had a non-zero chance of dying at the tip of somebody else's spear.
Right.
If you weren't a blacksmith, you were probably going to war.
Yeah.
And you got to chew out some little piece of Portugal.
Yeah, exactly. And you're just going there because like maybe you can steal like 10 pieces of gold, and when you come back, now you can have a like slightly better
You
hut.
can own a person.
Yeah.
I heard heroin's legal.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to Portugal.
Not Portugal the man, Portugal the country.
Maybe there's a man there.
Well, boys, I value your sage advice
Thank
and
you.
wisdom.
Yeah, well, there's no advice here, but maybe some wisdom.
It's good. It's a good conversation. It's a tough one. Cowardice and bravery are hard things to identify, and
Right.
And he can be accused of both.
Right, but that's one man's bravery is another man's stupidity. Is
Sure.
Running out, guns blazing into the middle of the battlefield. Is that bravery, or is that stupidity, or another form of cowardice of not wanting to make the hard decision of saying no, I won't do it?
Right. When you watch Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, are you like, man, I wish he didn't run out there?
Butch and Sundance, the early years. I really like that movie.
Yeah, it's
Butch
really,
and Sun.
it's
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance.
Butch with the son.
It's really good. I don't know.
It really is.
Really going off
It's
the. I think
really,
it's
really
better than the
I haven't
fucking
seen it.
Sting.
You haven't seen it?
No, that was an early quarantine movie for Aaron too.
Yeah, you watched it.
No, I wasn't.
You didn't. Oh, it was before you moved in.
That's right.
It's good. I mean,
William Goldman, the guy who wrote Princess Bride.
Paul Newman and Robert Everett.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
like just both at like the right age.
Yeah, perfect timing.
It's really, and it holds up. Like it's funny, and
70
something.
Yeah, it might not even be. It might even be.
weird time, like such specific time in cinema. Like,
Yeah,
It's perfect.
I mean, it's a western, right? It's
Yeah,
old,
yeah.
but there's raindrops keep falling on my head. What?
Yeah. It's
I love
perfect
those
movie.
like anachronistic movie, musical choices.
Yeah.
It's really. We're getting off topic, but
we getting off top. Should we?
But people, the cowardice,
yes, there's
bravery.
different. There's surface level bravery and surface level cowardice, and it's not as black and white as one might say.
No, yeah,
Well, it's the thing, it's like people go like, "Oh, you served until serving was inconvenient," and you go like, "Or did I serve when fucking
Longer than I should have.
Yeah, like when shit was really fucked up and tons of people would have died for no goddamn reason, and at least I could fool you into thinking that I was doing some diabolical shit when really the whole time I was just trying to fucking save lives."
Yeah.
Here in America, every time there's a sporting event, even fucking Little League games, they'll play the national anthem, and then they'll continually underfund the VA every year.
Yeah,
and
every
so everybody who's at the Little League game can say, I stood up, I respect our troops,
Well,
and
he
then
says
I
we
give
respect-
no money to the VA,
That's right.
and I don't give a shit
And
about
I drive past homeless people on the off ramp every
it. And
day.
they're all they're all vets
Yeah.
of some
It's because we
shit.
respect our troops, but we don't care about veterans.
Exactly.
Uh,
And that's why we love a fetus, but we don't give a shit once it's born. It's the exact same.
Oh yeah, they can go
goddamn
to the
thing.
chair.
Yeah,
Probably a criminal.
I'm pro-life.
Is there a high chair for the chair?
Yeah, pro-life, anti-baby,
Yeah, it's a fucking joke. Disgusting.
pro-soldier, anti-vet. That's what I am.
Anti-baby, pro-fetus.
Exactly. That's anyway. That's America. Bravery, cowardice, the circle of life. I don't know what I'm saying anymore.
And it's just like Paul to go inside and be fucking his mom.
Man, it is just so typical of Paul.
That's just a Paul.
Remember that show, That's So Raven?
That's so Paul.
That's so Paul.
You remember Paul and the Family?
My favorite, remember Paul Bearer?
Yeah, I love Paul.
Yeah,
Bear.
Paul Bear backed his mom.
After we first told our buddy Daniel about fucking Taboo 2. Brought it up the second time, and I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "You watch Taboo 2," and Aaron goes, "That's fun for the whole family."
Yeah. He's right there.
Dude,
He's right.
The whole family.
And
and that's what they are. He's a whole family.
He didn't get it. He didn't get the
No,
joke.
he didn't get that it was fucking ancestry.com.
Oh God, it's so stupid.
And hot.
You know, there's more Taboo.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they're still doing it today.
Taboo goes on and on. Tell the people,
Taboo 3 electric boogaloo taboo. Taboogaloo.
All right.
I'm part of the Taboogaloo boys.
All right, Steve.
We want a civil war so we can all fuck our moms again.
Dude, what I do is I take other sequel titles and I go, Taboo 6, Paul lives.
Yeah.
Paul takes Manhattan.
Taboo 7, The Last Crusade.
Paul goes to hell.
Empire Strikes Back.
It's Skip versus Paul. Whoever was the kid in Taboo 2, you know.
Skip.
It's a crossover.
It's a fringe.
It's a crock over.
Opportunity.
It's a gate over.
Taboo 6, yes, he's raping her.
No.
It's what she's saying.
Oh God, let's get the fuck out of here before we get into trouble.
Yeah, before.
I think we're going to get into trouble.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say goodnight. My name is John Fahey.
My name is Aaron Pita, and I say goodnight.
Mapper so.
Good night, everybody. We love you.
Scarpins Avenue.